Joy, a word problem. I know you guys are stoked. All right, so example 4 does give us a word problem, and it gives us this formula to deal with it, and it says a football is kicked vertically. The approximate height of the football in meters after so many seconds. So h is the meter's height, and t is time in seconds, just like it was in physics, is modeled by this formula. When will the football hit the ground? So that's the important part is, well, what are we doing with those variables? When, oh, that's time. They want time. So I could even write a little t equals question mark, kind of like like we do in physics. And it says, when will it hit the ground? So what's the hidden information there? Well, when it hits the ground, what's its height? 0. So we know that height is equal to 0. So basically what they're doing is asking us to set that equation equal to 0 and solve for the variable, which is exactly what we've been doing. It's just kind of disguised in a question. So we're going to go 0, that's the height, equals 1 plus 20t minus 5t squared. Now this next thing you might notice is, well, that's not the same format that we're used to seeing. It's not in the correct order, and the t squared is the negative. So what I can do is I can factor a negative 5 out of the equation. It might be easier to look at if I arrange it t squared, t, and the number. So we can do that. We can go, oh, actually, you're used to looking at it the other way around completely. So I'm going to write negative 5t squared plus 20t plus 1 equals 0. Now I'm going to factor in negative 5 out of that, and so it's going to be negative 5 times t squared. 20 divided by negative 5 is negative 4t. 1 divided by negative 5 is negative 1/5. Equals 0 divided by negative 5, still just 0. So you see how when you apply any multiplication or division to that 0 side of the equation, it just disappears. So we can just focus on, because we've done this on both sides now, we can focus on t squared minus 4t minus 1/5 equals 0. And now I can continue with my difference, or my completing the square to solve it. So I can move the 1/5 over, and I can figure out what other number I'm going to need by taking this 4t, negative 4t divided by 2 equals negative 2, squaring it, and that's the number that's going to go in my open space. So I'm going to have t squared minus 4t, negative 2 squared is just plus 4, equals, I've got my positive, whoops, I don't have to write a positive. My negative 1/5 became a positive 1/5 over there. I added a 4, so I have 4 there as well. So now this can be substituted in for my t minus 2 squared, which is t minus 2 times t minus 2 gives me this whole thing, is equal to 4 and 1/5. Well, 4 is secretly equal to 20/5, right? So that's going to be a positive. That guy was a positive, so it turns out that I've got 21/5 here. So I take the square root of each side, I move the thingy around, and I should be able to just write this as t equals, got my, take the square roots. This was a negative 2, so it's going to be a positive 2 on this side, plus or minus the square root of 21/5. Neither of those have a factor that's a perfect square, so you're done.